So Death and Company, to me, kind of represents the, like I say, the Smuggler's Cove of Tiki. It is for the more classic craft cocktail movement. It is that
I like how
bar.
you keep on almost saying cocktails.
Cocktails. And we haven't been drinking. We're drinking Liquid Death, which, contrary to the name, doesn't have cocktails. We're drinking Liquid Death, which is non-alcoholic. So see what happens when I do this sober? I spill all my words when I'm tipsy.
What kind of drinks do crocodiles drink?
Yeah.
Cocktails. Yeah. Aloha, children of the night. And today we're going to be talking about not a tiki bar.
No, we're doing a crossover episode.
Yeah.
Tiki Goth Club meets Mugs with Ray.
Yeah.
All right?
Yep.
Sort of like, like the Flintstones meets the Jetsons, or Alf, what was that one? Oh, Alf and Gilligan's Island. Or
that happened?
Yeah.
Alf was on Gilligan's Island?
Yeah. Or the other way around, but yeah. Okay, you have to be old to get any of these references. Or Battle of the Network Stars, where they had all those 70s and 80s actors because, like, I don't know, Sherman Helmsley and Tom Bosley and Speedos or something, which I'm sure is what all America wanted back then.
Today we're going to be talking about two mugs from Death and Company. And Death and Company is a craft cocktail bar. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of them, right?
Yeah, there's a few. And that's kind of why we're going to talk about them. So the first and main one was opened in 2007. Yeah. In the East Village. So I guess what's interesting about Death and Company and the craft cocktail movement, although it's not a tiki bar, it is and I guess it's still considered one of the better bars in America in the sense that it's bartender driven. They would hire the best bartenders and give them reign to make quality drinks. Yeah. And there are a number of them. There's one in Los Angeles, which they also produced a mug for, which I don't have, which is Capitol Records Building.
What?
Yeah, all being cracked up after an earthquake.
They made a mug for that?
Yeah, the Capitol Records Building post-earthquake for their LA stores. I think you can still buy them online through Death and Company.
And I've actually been to a Death and Company that was in Denver. My buddy Bobby Aloha, who used to live up in Linwood, moved out there with his wife to Denver, so he took me there, and I'll tell you what, they're great.
Yeah, amazing drinks.
Well made, You
tell the bartender what you like and what you don't like, and they will make something up for you that's just, unique. Everything is super high quality. They're going to have one, relatively new news for those of you up in Pacific Northwest. The CEO of Death and Company has moved to Bellevue and is scouting on Capitol Hill to open one in 2024 or 2025.
Really?
At Death and Company, yeah. So that'll be exciting if and when that happens.
This may sound like a weird question, but is it a chain? Is it like a...
I guess it's a chain now. I don't...
is there anything in common with the Death and Company locations? Will they all have the same?
Well, I think the LA and the East Village one are similar. Although the LA one, they have a standing room bar for people, and then they have the main one that which I believe looks like the New York one, which is very classic, dark, wood paneling, just classy wood bar, somewhat modern.
So the decor is different.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the Denver one's like. So
it was kind of open. It was kind of big, actually.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of open, big windows.
That's a little different because the one in the East Village is a nondescript door on 6th, I think, and it was not a speakeasy by any means. Yeah, and although it's not technically a speakeasy, the one in New York, you gotta know it's there to go there. And it's smaller and very intimate. So I guess they're different. The one in LA, like I say, I think they have two areas that you can go to.
Are the menus the same, or are they different in each place?
Good question. I assume there's some differences. I mean, the classics are the classics, and they all have the spin on the classics. The interesting thing too is they have a number of books they published.
Several of them.
Several of them. This is the main one. This is the one I have. You can find them on their website. So to tie it to Tiki, Beach Bum Berry has been quoted a lot in articles saying that he has claimed that the original craft cocktail movement was the original tiki drinks.
I completely
the Don
agree
Beach,
with that.
With all the ingredients.
I completely agree with that.
Everything they used back then, the quality and whatnot. And interestingly, Death and Company wasn't the first of the craft cocktail movement by any means, but they opened in around January 1st, 2007. And they were touted as one of the best bars in America for their drinks, and still make some people's lists.
You can buy this book at like Barnes and Noble, I think.
Probably. I'm sure you can.
I think you can.
Sure.
So it's a pretty popular book.
Yeah. But the craft cocktail movement in 2007. So if you figure that was the beginning of the big rise, and then you lay that with so Beach Bum Berry started in 1998, early 2000s with his rediscovery of tiki, and then we used as a prop here the Smuggler's Cove book. Well, Smuggler's Cove opened in 2009, and if you were to say that the tiki drinks that many of us demand and pay big money for are part of the craft cocktail movement, and 2009 Smuggler's Cove was probably the tiki equivalent of Death and Company. Wasn't the first of the new wave, but it sort of, they wrote a very good book as well on recipes and background, much like this Death and Company book. So I see a lot of parallels there between the Smuggler's Cove and Death and Company.
And you're right, Stephen, because when I first got into tiki, pretty much all the drinks were they weren't craft cocktails, and they were they just got you drunk. It was a lot of rum, a lot of grenadine, a lot of pineapple juice, a lot of Mai-Tais and quote unquote zombies and stuff like that. And it wasn't until like around 2010, 2011 where I finally I started to see bars making high quality tiki drinks, and it did change, But yeah, back when I first got into it, the drinks were nothing to brag about at all.
Yeah.
And now they are. I mean, now they're like works of art, really. I mean,
they are. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but I guess, it is kind of weird though when you really get back to it. Is like when you look at Don Beach's recipes. Yeah, they were. It was already there. It was already, or even like Trader Vic's recipes. Don Beach's recipes were always a secret. But the Trader Vic's recipes were always out for everyone. There was always he put out several books, so people knew. I mean, obviously, if you could make great cocktails, the tools were there, but just no one did it.
Yeah.
And now fast forward to, I mean, like the drinks at Smuggler's Cove, they're considered some of the best tiki drinks.
Yeah.
And now we're spoiled. We're it's it's kind of weird when you actually go to a tiki bar where you're like, yeah, these drinks aren't very good,
Yeah,
because most places are really good,
Yep. They almost, without exception, are. I think of all the favorite commercial tiki bars I've ever been to, the only one that might not be considered craft cocktails is Tiki Tea, of my favorites, and even then, the Raised Mistake is just an outstanding drink. Right? I mean, you cannot go wrong with that drink.
I mean, what's interesting, Stephen? It's like, that's almost like the crossover tiki bar for me as far as the drinks were concerned. Because before Tiki Tea, most of the places that I had tiki drinks were nothing to brag about. And what made Tiki Tea stand out for me before I knew anything about it or the history is like, oh my God, these drinks are actually good. They're actually tasty. I like them. I want more,
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to compare Tiki Tea drinks to Smuggler's Cove, it's like it's like apples and oranges.
It is.
But still, I mean, there's a lot of to this day, probably the only people that know what's in a Raised Mistake is Mike Sr., Mike Jr., and Greg.
Yeah.
That's it. So there's a magic going on there that people can't replicate.
Yeah.
Or if it was that easy, it would have been replicated by now.
Yeah. What's interesting is I had to look up why they call it Death and Company, because unlike a tiki bar where you expect a certain atmosphere living up to its name, this is not. This is a streamlined, modern, classy joint, right? But no overt skeletons or haunted mansion jumping out at you.
It'd be awesome if it did, though.
Yeah, it would be.
Skeletons.
So when the founders founded Death and Company, they there was I think a Dashiell Hammett story named or featuring Death and Company that one of the founders liked. But also there was around Prohibition an anti-liquor sentiment known as Death and Company, and the quote, so it was a quote, I guess, to dissuade people from drinking, pro-prohibition, but I think the founders of Death and Company stood it on its head, and the quote was, "Those who drink keep company with death, or live a life shadowed by death." So,
sure, okay.
Well, by giving up drinking, you've extended your life, right? According to this. So.
Sure.
But yeah, so
wait, hold on. Read that quote to me again.
Those who drink keep company with death, or live a life shadowed by death.
Yeah, but that's true for literally everybody, though, whether you drink or not.
Well, maybe we're all going to shuffle off this coil someday.
So it's like, that's like saying, like, people that drink need oxygen. It's like, all right, okay, trying to scare people.
But I love the poetic when you read the quote and why they call it Death and Company, and then they have the, it almost looks, it is absinthe, isn't it? It looks like an absinthe.
It could be.
Yeah. Which, of course, absinthe, the Green Fairy, and the whole mythos of death and goth go very well together as well.
And actually, like, looking at the mugs here, and then when you talk about death, they're talking about essentially the Grim Reaper, right?
Yeah, they are. So these, both of these mugs were done by Thor.
Thor. What's his last name? Hired? It's not Hired.
No. Tom.
Thor.
Thorderson.
Yeah.
Thorderson. Sorry, Tom, if you're listening to this and we
if
just
you're
massacred
your name.
But he's known as Thor. He's worked with the Imagineers. He worked in Tokyo Disney.
Done a lot of mugs. He's an artist.
And he's done a lot of great mugs, and he does the Gothic style mugs. Yeah. And so he did these through Tiki Land Trading.
Okay.
And you see his classic signature here for Death and Company.
So what's this one called?
So I don't know what it's called, but it's based on a statue that's called the Veiled Virgin. It's not a skeleton. This is the we call it around the house. This is Heidi's favorite mug of mine. She loves it. We actually have it in the den, not in the tiki bar, and so it's the Veiled Virgin, but we call it the Corpse Bride around the house.
I like that
because well, the Veiled Virgin's the original. It's a woman, a virgin, maybe I don't even know if it's the Virgin Mary or whom, with braids coming down a statue.
This is really cool.
It's amazing.
It's not. There's just enough detail, but that skeleton, is so awesome.
But the great thing about this mug and the other mug we'll talk about too is it evokes the Gothic Renaissance of Victorian times, right?
Yeah.
The whole literature, the whole statuary. It also evokes one of my favorite statues in Washington, D.C. Henry Adams, author, when his wife died, he commissioned this very Gothic, pensive statue, and I think refused to say his wife's name after her death. I don't know if she took her own life or died young for other means. But anyway, it's a haunting statue. It's at there's one casting at one of the Smithsonian museums, I want to say, of maybe the Smithsonian Museum of American Art. But it's also at a graveyard out Rock Creek Park, maybe? Anyway, in Washington, D.C. It's an amazing statue. And also this, and then this is the Grim Reaper. What's clever about this is, unlike it has, you put your garnishes or drink right here, it has no face. So
that is clever.
Yeah, and it's even more clever when you look at it because he's got the timepiece here. But what they issued,
the time's running out.
They not only that, they started issuing this in Christmas of 2022, and then reissued it in June of this year, 2023. So it is the spirit of all things future from Dickens. Really? A Christmas Carol, I think, inspired when they released it. Because if you remember in the movies, and I think also in the book, although I read the book when I was young, but in the movies, when Scrooge meets the last spirit, it's the one with no face. And usually in the movies, it comes out and it points to his own grave. Spoiler alert! Yeah. It points to his own grave as his future if he keeps his evil ways.
If you keep with your evil ways, you're gonna die. But he's gonna die anyway.
This seems to be a theme here. Every time we talk about death.
Yeah, so imagine the ghost of Christmas future, and he's like, if you don't change your ways, this is what's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that going to happen to me anyway? Yeah, kind of.
The bar is highly recommended. At least the one in New York. I have to remember to check out the one in LA again. The mugs are amazing. Thor did an amazing job with these mugs. They're just up our alley. And the craft cocktail movement, along with the tiki drink movement and revival and whatever wave we're in. We can debate that again in another episode. It all kind of fits together. Yeah. And then we'll do another episode too on some more Gothic influenced mugs.
Yeah.
Not Disney mugs per se, but mugs that have been influenced by Disney takes off and other Gothic mugs. And I also have some Thor mugs from the Haunted Mansion that are pretty cool, and I think we'll talk about those another day and another time. Yeah. But anyway,
but we better make it quick though because time's running out for both of us.
Death stalks us all.
Whether you're drinking or not.
It also evokes the cemetery. So we have some weird art in our guest bathroom or photographs, one of which is of an angel, I think an angel mother, kissing their child. Yeah. It's a very creepy statue. And the other we have in our bathrooms, I don't know why we put creepy Gothic photos in our bathrooms, but we do.
Because you're cool. So you may be asking yourself, how can I join the Tiki Goth Club? Well, there is no membership. There are no fees. Well, things have changed. For $15, you can become a member of the Tiki Goth Club. What does $15 get you? It gets you your own membership card with your own number. You also get a couple stickers and a pin. I also have shirts for sale. These are $20, $5 shipping and handling. If you're interested in any of this, go to my website, tikiwithray.com, and there's a tab that says Tiki Goth Club. Just click on that, and all the information you need is there.